welcome to the Minds on a Mission podcast, the podcast where we explore the journeys that challenge us, change us, and chart the best course for our best selves. I'm your host, Samantha Bailey, an entrepreneur and content creator, and today's lovely guest is the host of the ModCo Podcast and also is an author. If you guys want to help me welcome Angel Wilborn. Woo!
Hi, Samantha. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for coming on. I feel like, when did we set this up? Like months ago, right?
It was so long ago, Samantha.
Yeah.
I couldn't even can tell you. It's been a long time in the making.
Well, I'm glad you were still able to be available to come on with me because I've had a little bit of cancellation stuff's going on in the world, which I totally get. And I'm just ready to be back on here and chatting with people. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you so much for your patience and your flexibility, because I think we're actually supposed to record this at like the end of last year and something came up. So I just really appreciate you extending that grace to me and allowing me to still be here on your platform.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, things happen. I totally get it. And I've had my fair share. I had a bit of a time where I kind of was going through personal stuff and I had to reschedule with some people. So thankful, I'm like, people giving me grace, I want to give it as well. So just happy to be here.
Oh, yes.
So you are a host of your own podcast. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So it is called the ModCo Podcast. It is almost 2 years old. It'll be 2 in April. So super exciting. Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to quit it almost every time I get ready to, mostly when I get ready to edit. Editing is zero fun, but it is, I originally started it to talk about the realness of organization and entrepreneurship. And over the 2 years, it's come to be so much more. We talk about like life in general. People share like their stories about their entrepreneurial journey, organization journey, like life, just all kind of different things. So it's really great and I enjoy it.
I love that. Sounds like we kind of have similar podcasts. I mean, the original starting point seems a little different, but things that we talk about seems very similar.
Yes, it does.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And I've always done them live, so I don't know the editing aspect, and that is honestly why I do them live, is because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I would be sitting there for hours and hours each episode being like, this is not perfect. So when I started my podcast, I was like, it just has to be live. It just has to be live because that way it kind of forces me to be like, whatever happens, it's out there, no being like, oh, I shouldn't have said this, or, just being like real and raw. So, but I love editing. It's just, it's so time consuming. So.
It is. I finally learned. So when I did like my first few episodes, I didn't really know a lot about the back end of podcasting. I had listened to podcasts, of course, but I knew nothing about how the back end of it works. And so when I was editing, I started off, I was using Spotify as my host site because everybody's like, sign up for Spotify. It's free, it's simple, it's easy, and you can do all your editing and everything in there. And I was like, okay. And so I was doing my editing in there and I was being like you, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I was being so like technical and specific that it was taking me like 2 hours to edit because I was trying to cut out every little and every little pause, because that's what you hear on, the really, really professional podcasts that have teams of people for production and all of that. And I was like, I can't have this in there. And maybe about 2 or 3 months after I was doing my podcast, I had someone, or maybe a little longer, I can't quite remember, but I had a guest on my show and she's actually a podcast strategist. And just as a favor, she did a one-on-one strategy session with me. And she told me, she's like, when you're going to edit, don't try to edit out all the ums or all the pauses or all the ands. She said, because that's how you talk. And when you go to guest on someone else's podcast, or either if you ever decide to do speaking engagements or anything like that, and you get up there and you're saying or you're pausing or you're saying and, people are going to be disappointed because that's not what they're expecting. They're expecting you to be polished like you are on your podcast. And I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. And so that helped me out a lot to like relax with that. And then when I switched over to my editing services, sometimes I do have an editor that I outsource to, but most of the time I do it myself. but now it has the transcript on it, which makes it so much easier. And then when I'm recording, I can remember if there's like something that I needed to cut out, like if I have like a long pause because I was trying to gather my thoughts or something, I can just go in there and cut it out. It makes it so much easier.
Right. Yeah, I get that. And that is definitely useful to have that session to kind of learn more about that. I feel like for a little bit I was doing clips. I want to get back to them, but again, editing. It's like I like the creativity of it. I've always loved that aspect, and like especially for a little while, it's kind of like making just random YouTube videos like clean my apartment with me, and those are fun because it's like I feel like they're, I don't know, I'm not as perfectionist with them. Like obviously I'm very like, oh, I want it put together in a certain way, but kind of the style of content versus being on the podcast, kind of to me, I'm like, it needs to be more like perfect, which is why I'm just like, I can't edit it but yeah, with the clips, I very much was the same thing where I noticed if I tried to cut out the it was like very jumpy because you say a lot.
You do.
And it's like I try to think about what I'm saying, like go a little slower, because I notice when I get super, like I have bad anxiety, that's when I say a lot. So
gotcha.
When doing it live, I try to be like, slow down, because sometimes I get too amped up, and that's when I'm kind of tripping over my words a lot. But like, yeah, with the clips, it's like it kind of just would seem weird if I were to cut out every
right,
because you'd be like and it would just be cut
it. Yep. So and that's how
it, like,
yeah, you do. Like that's how like my first like several episodes sounded, because I was trying to cut out like every and it was like really choppy, and I was like, this doesn't sound very great. But you honestly, you don't realize how much you use the words and like and so until you start recording a podcast. I know one day my mom called me and she said, how many times did you plan on saying the word and in that episode? She said every other word was like and. I was like, was it really? I said, I didn't even like really realize it. I said, but and so now I'm more conscious of it, like when I'm editing, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I did say and way too much. It wasn't even necessary in the statement that I used it in. So I get it.
And the good thing with like editing, so I don't notice it because obviously I don't really edit, but I send voice memos a lot. Like a lot of times I'm just like, I don't have the energy to type what I need to say. I'm just gonna send a voice memo. And so it would be similar, like editing, where like I would listen to it, even though I don't like listening to my own voice. I'm like, and I know a lot of people probably agree with that. It's like, kind of makes me cringe. I'm like, why do I sound like that? But I force myself to do it. Everything, like every audio I send, or if I send like my friend a video of me talking, I force myself to listen to it. So I kind of notice those patterns. My issue is the word like. I say like a lot. And I told myself, I'm like, I need to learn more words to fill that, because I'll listen back to it and I'll be like, and like, and like, and like. Yeah, and too. I'll be saying and I'm like, I'm like, I need another word, but it just
happens. It just flows so naturally. I think mine is so. When I listen back to my podcast, I'm usually saying so a lot. And I'm just like, why am I saying that so much? See, there it goes again. It happens. It comes so naturally that you're not even thinking about it.
Right. So with your podcast, what were kind of things you'd notice, since we're kind of talking about that kind of growing from starting podcasts? What are things you notice that like you started out with kind of patterns and that you've kind of grown out of? Like, for example, mine was I really had a hard time with kind of having a flow. I had to set up questions to ask because I was so nervous. I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to come up with questions on the spot. So when you'd watch like my very first episodes, I was reading off, and it just kind of felt a little bit like robot-like because it's kind of a forced conversation versus a flow. So kind of things like that where you're like these are things that I noticed that I did in the beginning that I've grown out of, and kind of how, maybe if you could talk about how you grew out of it.
So one thing that I will say that I definitely grew out of was when I originally started my podcast, I was planning on it being a solo podcast. I was going to do guests every now and then, but it wasn't going to be all the time that I had guests on my show. And I did pretty well with that. For I started it in April. So I would say probably until like maybe around August or something like that, I did pretty good with just having myself on there. And then I somehow connected with someone else. I can't remember how I don't even think I was in a podcast group. I don't know where it was, but I ended up connecting with someone or I think I was just putting out there that I had a podcast in like a group that I was in. And another lady connected with me. She's like, I have a podcast too. I'd love to do like a swap. And I was like, oh, I mean, sure. Okay. And I did that. And I was like, well, having a guest isn't so bad maybe every now and then, because it helps you to keep things fresh, to keep things new. And it also helps you to like kind of break things up a little bit. And especially if you're like, I had intentions of doing a solo episode, but for some reason it didn't work out. I've had issues sometimes where I sit down to record an episode and then it's just not coming out how I want it to. And I get frustrated with it. Like, that's a good time to have guest episode. So that was definitely one thing that I changed fairly quickly with my podcasting. And another thing is, I think we were talking about a little bit before we got on there, I have changed my intro several times. I've also gotten more systemized with it, because at first when I started deciding to do guests, and I didn't really have a system for it, because I didn't think that I was going to get as many people as I ended up getting. I posted it in one of the groups that the lady had invited me to, one or two of the groups that the lady invited me to, about find a guest or need a guest. And I just had like this basic application, and all these people responded. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to like keep up with all of this? And how am I going to keep up with the editing of it? And did I do the promos for it? And did I do this for it? So I implemented a checklist for myself. And I not only did that with my guest episodes. At first it was just for my guest episodes, but then I realized with my solo episodes as well, I was like, well, did I create the promo for this? Did I already do this? So I had gave myself a checklist for my solo episodes as well. And that's been really, really helpful for me to have that checklist. I've created like templates for my emails so that I'm sending out just the same emails. And I'm always like, well, what did I say the last time? Because that sounded really, really good, but I don't remember what it was. That's been helpful as well.
I love that. I'm just gonna like shoot out my thoughts, because I've always talked about this. I have such squirrel brain. I definitely have ADHD. I'm bad. I refuse to go to the doctor to get diagnosed. But I'm like, yeah, squirrel brain. So that's why sometimes it's hard for me to like put it in the order of like things were talked about. I just kind of have to think about,
Right, yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely think the intro thing, yeah, I had such an issue with, I thought I'm going to make a customized intro for every episode. Like, it was the same formatting, but having to change certain things. And I had some issues where I played the wrong one for a couple episodes. It was either wrong intro or outro, because I like made it customized for both. Mm-hmm. And after a while, I was like, okay, I don't know why I decided that was going to be a thing. And I made it generic, and that's been good. I'm like, right. Eliminated that issue. But that was the thing where I was like, because my thing is, when I'm like really into something, I make things overcomplicated, and I'm like, I'm going to do this and this. And it's like, and I'm like, whoa, you've got way too much on your plate. Like, no. Yep. As for like the checklist thing, I had a checklist when I made the podcast, like, oh, these are all the things I need to do before starting the podcast. But then kind of with the management, which I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about the back end of having your own podcast. It can be super stressful. It comes with a lot of reward. Like, I love connecting with people, but I definitely at times like would feel so overwhelmed because I'm like, I should be hiring someone else to manage this. It would make it a lot easier. But where I'm at, it's like I'm kind of like, I feel like I need to take that on until I could get to a point, where monetizing it, that I could be
Right.
able to hire someone else. So it can be a lot, like having to book guests and reach out to guests and make sure your information's updated and make sure you've uploaded the episodes and, post on all the different platforms. And, you know what I mean? It's like the marketing aspect, which is like, I have no experience in marketing or running a podcast or anything. It's like, it hasn't stopped me. I will continue. And I'm working towards figuring out starting my own business, which I don't think is going to be related to the podcast, but I do at some point want to have my own course, kind of a thing I've thought about.
Okay.
But it's like, I know that I can figure it out. It's just definitely a lot when you're like, I've never done this before. How do you start a podcast? How do you start a business? Like, and then kind of working through certain mindset things too, because that kind of plays a part as well. So
Definitely. And it's, like I love organization and like organization is my thing. But when you've never done something before, you don't know how to organize it. And so, like you just said, like I said, when I first started off, I love organization. I can organize stuff. But if it's something you've never done before, you can't organize it because you don't know what needs to be organized. And at first it's basically just trial and error until you kind of get your footing in for it. And then also it's learning from other people. Like I got the idea to do like the email templates. I send out an email now. And this is actually something that I just started doing like maybe a couple of months ago. After I have a guest on my show, I'll send them an email out and it says, like, I think the subject line is like, what's next? And so it'll say, hey, thanks, something along the lines like, hey, thanks so much for being a guest on the show today. Here's what's next. And then it asks them to like send over their headshots and any links that they have. And if they have a freebie that they want to offer, I have like a guest survey on there and just like some other little next steps. And I honestly just started doing that maybe in November or December of last year because I was a guest on someone's podcast and they sent me an email afterwards and it said next steps. And I was like, I emailed back. I was like, hey, I'm stealing this. Like, thank you for the idea. And when we were talking on our coffee chat, there was something that I said to her. I can't remember what it was, but something I said to her. She's like, I'm stealing that. I'm like, go ahead, like steal away. And so I had already been sending out emails, but I never sent out that what's next email. And I've learned that people appreciate that. But that's something that I found out from learning from someone else or from trial and error. Like I said, with the checklist, it wasn't something that I was doing at first. But when I was trying to keep track of 50 applications, and then out of those 50 applications, the 20 people that I did actually interview and trying to keep track of that, it's like, okay, I need a way to do this. Oh, a checklist. That's a good idea. So don't beat yourself up too much about it because you'll figure out what works for you. And what may work for me may not work for you because our organization styles are different. The way that we think is different. But it's always good to hear like how other people get their back end organized or get things done because it can kind of give you an idea. And it's like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to do exactly that, but there's something similar that I want to do to what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, I get that. And I feel like it's like, I kind of have similar, like the thing I sent you. It's kind of similar. Like it has, what do you feel comfortable talking about? What do you not? Is there a picture you could provide? And then obviously, like I asked for people to come early just so we can kind of talk about a little bit of what's going to happen during the episode. And, so it's like, it's similar. I don't have an email. I just have like a formatting. Like it's a set formatting that I have like in my notes somewhere that like I use. But my only thing is I want to be a bit more like scheduled with things. I feel like for for a while I was really good with that, but then it kind of fell off of it. And like now I want to really get back on track with having set like, okay, within this amount of time, I want this to be sent over. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like lately it's like I'm trying to get back into it. So I feel like things are a little last minute, which I don't like. I don't like being last minute in things. So I'm like definitely want to kind of refine my system. And yeah, I think the emails thing's great. I have like an automated thing that kind of sends, I don't know if it sends a follow-up one. I know it sends like the confirmation and also sends a text, like have it automated to send a text saying like thank you or whatever.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
So I've dabbled a little bit in it. Like I had a friend, he knows a lot about that stuff. He taught me like how to make a shortcut because I'm like, I don't see some things like that. Not my thing. I definitely am willing to learn, but
right.
I'm not like a coding or, I have no idea. I'm just like, please show me how to do this to make things a bit easier on my side. But
I got you. I understand. How long have you been podcasting?
So since September.
Okay.
Like 6 months maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll all come to listen. I'm still learning stuff and still figuring out things and trying to get stuff together. The other day, I was recording a solo episode and I recorded the whole thing. I finished. I was like, yes. I hadn't hit the record button. Excuse me.
I get that. Yeah. Do you ever like during solo episodes, like, I mean, I know probably now it's a bit different because you've had more time for it, but like in the beginning, was there ever really a worry of being like, am I going to be able to fill the spot like with stuff like being able to talk for enough time? You know what I mean?
Yes, it was. So when I first started, I was planning on I thought my solo episodes would be about like 20 to 30 minutes. And I remember I recorded my first episode and it was 10 minutes. And I was like, is this it? But I was like, I'm done talking and I don't want to just be rambling on and on about nothing. And at that time, all of the podcasts that I always listened to were like 30 minutes or longer. So I was like, this is a really short podcast. Who's going to be interested in it? And I remember talking to a friend of mine and I was telling her about it. And she said, it's okay. She said, people like those shorter podcasts. They like that bite-sized information. And I was like, okay. So most of my solo episodes are usually anywhere from like 10 to 15 minutes. I have had a couple of solo episodes where I go to like maybe 20, 22 minutes. But I feel like and since then I have discovered other podcasts that are, like short like that, 10 to 15 minutes. So I was like, okay, it's not just me. But I feel like for myself, when I'm just talking to me, it's perfectly fine because I'm able to get my thoughts out. I feel like I'm giving valuable information. I'm not just rambling and trying to fill the episode to make it longer. Now, when I have guest episodes, those can range anywhere from 20 minutes to 45 minutes. It just all depends on how the conversation is going and how the conversation is flowing. I will say with guest episodes, I do try to usually do at least 20 minutes. So there have been some times where I've had to kind of like push and pull to get it to that 20-minute mark.
Right. Sorry. I was like, you're done there. Yeah, I get that. I feel like I don't know. I've had like a couple people suggest like, maybe do them shorter, but my thing always was like, I've kind of been a long form content person. Like I like watching the long podcast episodes. I think it can be, I don't know, very interesting and just to like put on and kind of do stuff. Like it's very much my comfort zone. And also I feel like a lot of times with like interviews, it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I just would think, is that enough time? Part of that thinks it's because I do like to talk. And so I'm like, I probably could talk. I also listen, but I mean, like, I love to conversate with people. So I feel like an hour is just a nice spot. Like I know some people that do, 2 hours, 3 hours. And I'm like, That's a little bit too much for me. Like, my social battery would be gone. It would be gone. But an hour feels like a nice spot. And sometimes it's like I've had times where me and the guest are having a really good time where we've easily gone to an hour and a half, not intending, but just kind of going through a flow. And it's like, it can be nice. So I definitely think there's a sweet spot. It's different for everybody. I think an hour for me is a good spot because it's like half an hour. I just feel like there's more to get in. You know, there's a lot to learn about someone, and even an hour is not enough to know about someone. You know, their whole life. But
yeah, and it just all depends on like what your audience gets used to, and that's another reason why I was kind of happy that I started like mixing the guest episodes in. I actually got to a point where I was doing more guest episodes than regular episodes. So now my audience, they'll know to expect a show that's anywhere between 10 to 45 minutes long, you know, and I definitely try to keep it at that 45-minute mark. I think maybe one time I went over and we hit almost an hour, but I did it as a bonus episode instead of a regular episode. I know it'd be a little bit harder for you since you're live, but I've also done it where I split episodes in half before, and I would especially do this a lot. Well, I guess this more so wasn't splitting in half, but so I used to do 2 episodes per week, and one episode was about organization and the other episode was about entrepreneurship. The organization came out on Sunday, the entrepreneurship came out on Wednesday, and some people that I would interview, they're like, oh, I can talk about organization and entrepreneurship. So I would record with them all in one session. We would record both interviews in one session, but I'd split it into 2 episodes so that it wouldn't be like super overwhelming, and also because it was supposed to be, you know, organization, entrepreneurship. But once I stopped doing the 2 episodes, if there's one that we're kind of getting long, or I feel like it can be a 2-part, we'll record the whole thing and then I'll split it.
Right. I get that. I do 2 episodes a week. And it was kind of, initially, I wasn't planning that, but similar to you, I had an experience where it was like, when I first started and was booking out people, I got like 14 people lined up, which to me, even then, like, I was like, wow, that feels like a lot of people. And then, it's funny, I don't know if you're kind of into stuff like this, but I think it was called like the Lionsgate portal, something. Is like, I have to look it up, but it's kind of like a spiritual day where it's like for manifesting and stuff, which it wasn't intentional, but it happened to be on that day. It's like, I forget what it is. 8, I don't know. Yeah, it's like a numbers thing.
Oh, okay, I got you. Like
8, and it was because I don't even know how it added up.
Is it like one of the things where it's like, well, no, that wouldn't make sense because last year was 2024. I was gonna say, so one of the things where the dates like the same forward and backwards, but then that wouldn't make sense if we were in 2024. So,
oh, sorry, I'm just gonna look it up. Lionsgate portal, but it ended up being, because 2024, 2 + 2 + 4 is 8, and then it was August 8th.
Okay, got you.
It was on August 8th, 2024, and I had just started like trying to get some guests because I spent all of August like building up my podcast, working on the behind the scenes, and then kind of starting to book out people. It was unintentional. I knew it was Lionsgate like a week before, but I wasn't like, oh, on this day I'm going to. It just happened to be I was at work on break, and I posted in a group and blew up, like 200 comments of just people. And I think you're one of them, right? You were
I think I was one of them. Yep.
Yeah. Where there's so many comments, and I was like, wow, how am I going to be able to, like, 1 episode a week? I feel like that would have just dragged out so long for all the guests that I were having to come on. So that's why I was like, well, then I'm going to do 2 episodes a week because it fits more people in a month.
Right.
So that's how that happened. It wasn't like on purpose. It just, I was like, okay. And I felt like Mondays and Fridays, you know, Mondays I usually don't work. Both jobs, because I worked at the daycare then, but now I work at credit union.
Okay.
I usually have Mondays off at both jobs I did. So that's kind of why I can do a little earlier on Mondays, and then Fridays I work until 7, so that's 8 to 9. Gives me time after work for a little bit.
Right.
But that's how that happened. Okay. But yeah, I'm not like crazy. My friend, she loves numbers. Like, she's very much kind of spiritual, like, oh, these times, or, you know, but I just think I'm like, it's pretty crazy though. I'm like that on that day.
Yeah.
Happened, you know.
Yes. Divine intervention.
Yes. Yep.
That's what it
totally
was.
agree. So I'm like, I believe in that. I'm not like, I think the numbers thing is cool, but I'm not, I feel like it's too much to learn. There's too many things, too many days, and I'm just like, I don't know, but
yeah, I was somewhere one day I was ordering like a bagel or something like that, and they was like, "What's your name for the order?" And I said Angel, and I may be getting this completely wrong. I don't know. And she's like, "Oh my gosh!" She was like, "Your name is Angel," and I think it was like 11:22 a.m. or something like that. She's like, "How cool is that?" And I'm like, "Cool." And so after I like walked away, I'm like on my phone Googling. I'm like, "What does 11:22 mean?" I'm like looking it up to see what I'm pretty sure it was 11:22. I think it was. Now I will say that I'll like Google if like I was having times. I'll go through periods of my life where every night I'm waking up at the same time, and each like time I go through like this period of like waking up at the same time, it's never like the same time. So like one time I remember I was waking up every night at 1:44 a.m. So after finding like a week, I like looked that up and I was like, okay, what does this time mean? Another time I was waking up at like 2 something and I was like, okay, what do these numbers mean? So I'll do that, or I'll look it up that or sometimes I'll, if I keep seeing a number over and over again in my dreams, because I usually remember my dreams like really well. So if I keep seeing a number over and over in my dream, I'll look that number up too. I still don't completely get it because as my husband, I'm sure there's like actual books that you can go and like look and read and research. But as my husband always says, he's like, Google's going to tell you anything that you really want to know. And I'm like, this is true. This is true. Yeah, I'm like, that this is very true. Yeah, he's like, if you want to be positive, it'll be positive. If you want to be negative, it'll be negative. I'm like, oh, yeah, that okay. So yes, I don't really know what I'm looking up, but I will like look it up occasionally.
I think part of it, like this is my thought. Like, I wonder if part of it is like numbers keep occurring because like you're thinking about it. Like it's more, I don't know, like versus, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I get it, because it's like how they say like your internal like clock and stuff like that. So maybe it was just like how some people are like, oh, I can just get up at 5 a.m. every day. Like I don't need an alarm clock. My body just automatically knows to get up at 5 a.m. every single day. And so I even thought about that when I was like getting up at 1:44, and I was like, it's probably just because my body has to go to the bathroom, and this is the time that it's gotten, used to it for this period of time. So it could be a number of things.
Right, like for me, like it's kind of like a thing where my brother's dad, me and my brother have same mom, different dads, but like my mom's always said the number 444 somehow ties with my brother's dad. I don't really know the story behind it, but like my mom sees the number all the time, and I see the number all the time, and like that's what I was saying. Like in my head, I wonder, like, am I seeing it because I'm thinking I'm gonna see it because I'm like, oh, I always see that number, so I'm like kind of feel like, because I thought about it and I keep thinking about it, that's why I keep seeing it. Versus if I weren't to think about it, I don't think I would really notice it. Like, I'm like, how is it that I check my phone and it happens to be 444? Like, it always kind of weirds me out. But then I'm like, maybe it's because I'm expecting it, because I'm like, oh, I'm going to see it. Like, I always see the number. So that's why I don't know if it's also like a subconscious thing. The more you think about it, the more you're going to see it. I don't know how that stuff works.
It kind of reminds me of the movie. Have you ever seen the movie Where the Heart Is?
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's a movie and it's based on a book, but it's about this lady and she's very superstitious about the number 5 because I think her mom, like, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm gonna mess up like some of the details, but like her mom left her when she was like 5 years old. When she turned 15, like something happened. Her boyfriend like left her at Walmart, and their license plate like had a number. No, she went to go check out at Walmart. Her total came to like $555, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" And she went out in the parking lot like her husband. I know her boyfriend had like left her in Walmart. Like something happened on her daughter's 5th birthday, so she had a thing with the number 5, and that just kind of makes me think of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, to me that sounds like a subconscious thing. Like she's tied the number 5 to like a significant event, and I feel like because she kept thinking about it, kept like manifesting it, like it just kept being a thing. Because they say too, it's like your thoughts are so powerful, and when you think about like even negative thoughts, if you think about it too much, like you're gonna manifest it, and it's the same positive. That's why we have to rewire our brain, which is like why I've really worked hard on certain like limiting beliefs, things that I've thought a lot. Like I will literally tell myself, don't think you're gonna make it like come true if you keep thinking that. Like try to tell myself, though those things aren't true, it's not true, don't keep thinking about it. Or like sometimes like I'll think like, I don't know, I have a fear. I'm not trying to get morbid, but like of my mom dying, because it's like, your parents get older, and I'm just like, not gonna be here forever. And then I'm like, no, if I keep thinking about it, like it's gonna come sooner. So I just tell myself, I'm like, just don't think about it, leave it alone, just don't think about it.
I've had a fear of my parents dying since I was like 9 years old. I don't know why. Like I can still remember the day that it hit me. I was in like the 4th grade, I think, and we were standing up doing like our moment of silence, and it hit me. Then I was like, my parents are getting old, because my dad was like 37 when I was born, and so I was like, my parents are getting old. They're gonna die one day. And this was like 9-year-old me, like just popped in my head, and like
me too.
And like thinking that, I was like, oh, okay. And then I like a lot of true crime. And so sometimes my thoughts can get like a little morbid. And my friends and family there, I was like, Angel, please stop with the true crime. Like, just stop. I'm like, but no, this is important information to know. And I'm like, you need to know this, and we need to know this. And I'll like lay stuff out. I think one day there was like a crazy driver or something like driving behind me, and I was trying to get over so that they could just like have their way. But then they like got behind me again. And I remember when I got to my destination, I took a picture of myself and I sent it to my husband and I sent it to my cousins. And I was like, if anything happens to me, this is what I'm wearing. This is where I'm at. I was like, this is the car that they're looking for. This is the description of the man. And I was like, are you okay? And I said, yeah. There's like, what happened? So I told him, I was like, do you know how many people get killed because of this? There's like, can you please stop listening to true crime? There's like the chances of you getting killed are very slim to none. I said, people always say that, but yet there are hundreds of true crime podcasts out here. And yes, some of them play the same stories, but most of them have different stories. So obviously the chances are not slim to none. So I'm with you. Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one on that, because it has created a whole new level of paranoia. I feel like I'm already kind of a paranoid person.
Yes.
And I'm like, tell me why. There was one. Do you watch Bailey Sarian? Have you watched her?
Is that the one who does her makeup while she's?
Yes,
I've watched. Yes, I've watched a couple of them.
I love her, and I think it was either her or Crime Junkie. Have you listened to that one?
I have listened to them. Yes.
Yeah, it was one of them. It was talking about. It was where the guy came in through the kid's window, and like it was like horrible. And ever since then, I am even though I live on the 2nd floor, I'm still paranoid about my window, like someone coming in through my window. And then like my door, like I literally can't sleep at night because I'm like, did I put the chain lock on? Like I literally get up and I'm like, it has made me so paranoid. But then also I'm like, I'm grateful because I know if something were to happen, I'm already thinking of all the scenarios. So
I'm already being vigilant about it. Like when I first really, really got into true crime, I would every night before bed, and we have a 2-story house, but every night before bed, I would go and check every single window in the house to make sure that all of them were locked. And I have been hearing, so there's a TV show that we watch. We like Chicago PD, and I think it was on that one, they had an episode where this guy was like, getting in through people's attics. He had like, and we live in a townhouse, and he had like carved tunnels or something between the attics and the townhouses, and was like going down through the attic. And so I told my husband, I was like, you have to go check the attic. And he was like, it's a TV show. It's not going to happen in real life. I kid you not, Samantha. Like the next day I went to go listen to one of my true crime podcasts, and it was about a killer in the attic. And I'm like, nope, you got to go up there and check the attic. So now every now and then I'm just running like, hey, have you checked the attic lately? And he was like, why? I'm like, because there could be someone living up there that we don't know about. And he's like, and how exactly did they get in? I don't know how these people do the things that they do, but somehow they do them. And so I need you to go up there and check, please, because I just want to make sure we're good. Yeah.
The thing that like makes me even more paranoid is thinking of like the factor of, wow, the more I choose to have an online presence, the more I am at risk. Like, that's definitely a thought I've had, and it doesn't help. I just recently watched a video on stalkers, like with celebrities, like certain things that has happened because of stalkers. And then I've thought like one day down the road, like I'm really gonna have to think about, that like, wow, because of the life I chose, it's like I won't regret it, but that definitely is a thing that comes along with it, like especially people that are celebrities. Because I think being an entrepreneur is a little bit different. You're still in the limelight, but not as much in the mainstream versus being a celebrity.
Well, it's not even just celebrities that get stalked. I used to listen to this podcast, and it was all about stalking. And like they had a couple, not even like A-list celebrities on there, but they had like some B-list people on there. But most of them were just like regular everyday people who were being stalked by like exes or their ex's new girlfriend or something like that. And just listening to the details that these people put into the stalking, I was just like, how do you have enough time in the day to be able to do? I'm sitting here, I'm over here like, man, I need some extra time in the day. I feel like I didn't accomplish everything. And you have time to work a full-time job, a side hustle, and to stalk someone. Like,
yeah,
how many hours are in your day? Because I need to borrow a couple of those to be a little bit more productive over here.
Yeah, I just think it's more of like I know it happens to other people, but just more of the increased chance of, and there's got to be someone out there if you're choosing to be online and kind of growing your platform or being a celebrity. It's like, like there's more eyes on me, and that's definitely a thing where it's like, and like seeing the ones about celebrities, it's like they literally, the people convince themselves that they like the other person loved them or that they were in a relationship together. And then ended up, like, there was a few where they ended up killing that person. And I was like, that's just so sad. Like,
it is
so sad to think that, like, again, it's a thing of, yes, there's all the positives, but also thinking like, because I chose to be in the limelight, there's more eyes on me, which could create people like that who need to get help but choose not to, and end up kind of focusing it on that person, having that obsession, and then going to the extreme because they're looking for that love or that validation. And then it's like not realizing the other person's like, I don't know you, I'm sorry. And then it creates the whole thing. Oh, that stuff just stresses me out. It makes me so paranoid. I'm just like,
But I won't stop listening to true crime. I remember one time my therapist told me, she's like, maybe you should stop listening to true crime. I said, well, what else am I supposed to do with my day if I don't listen to true crime? I'm like, I don't understand if I don't listen to it. She was like, maybe scale back to one show a week. I was like, no, that doesn't really work for me either. I'm sorry, I can't.
Like,
no. Yeah, it's like, probably not gonna happen. I was like, y'all are gonna thank me one day when I save your life or something like that, or you think back to what I said in the background. I don't know, but
seriously,
I'm with you.
I get that, because like I said, I watch them too, and then in my head I'm like, even though this stuff is like disgusting, like I'm like, how could anyone do this? I'm like, I need to know what to look for, because I'm like, this is not happening to me. I literally, like, I would say I fear more my mom's death than my own, or like my grandma, like people close to me. But, like, I definitely have certain situations like elevators. I'm sorry. I don't like elevators.
I don't like
I
elevators.
literally pray every single time because I have to use them at work.
Mm-hmm.
And I pray every single time I get on it. I'm like, God, do not let this be the last of me. I cannot die on this elevator, please.
I don't like elevators. I don't like people walking behind me. Like, I will, if there's somebody that's walking behind me and they're walking behind me for like too many paces, I will literally like stop walking and let them all go around me. I'm like very vigilant as well. I remember a couple of weeks ago, we were in a store and there was this guy. He was in the store by himself. It's me, my son, and my husband. But it just seemed like every hour we were on, he would be on, and every time we'd leave the aisle, he'd leave the aisle. And so, and then my husband and I kind of like split it, and my son was like kind of running back and forth between us, and I was like, no, you need to stick beside one of us. I was like, stop running back and forth between us, like stand beside somebody and wait for us to go to the next aisle. Because I mean, he perfectly fine. We ended up like losing. He ended up like leaving the store or whatever. But still, it was just weird that every hour we were on, he would come on it as soon as we came on and leave off of it as soon as we left off. And I was like, I don't like the feel of this. Like, this doesn't feel right. So I was like, no.
Do you ever get like super paranoid about like stuff that like after something happens? Like, for example, I literally just had this thought. I was like, what if I have a stalker out there and they watch this episode and they know that I'm aware that there are stalkers out there and that they are like formulated plan? I'm like, why do I think those things? Why?
Listen, I will come up with the whole scenario in my head and then be like, that wasn't even necessary. Why did I just visualize this whole entire scenario in my head? I remember another time, this guy, I was driving and I'm going the speed limit. I was probably going like a little bit above the speed limit. And he's like riding my butt. And finally he like zooms around me and he gets over and he like flips me off. And less than 2 minutes later, we both end up at the same light. So I was going to make a left turn and he was going straight. But we're both waiting for the light to turn green. So I remember I honked my horn and he looked over at me and I waved like, hey, like, look, we're both here at the same light. You zoom by me for no reason. So my light turns green, the green arrow for me to go. And so I make the left turn. He cut in front of, like, he was going straight. I was making left turn. He cut in front of the person behind me and follows me. And he's like literally like riding my bumper, like riding my tail. And I was like, today's the day I'm going to die. I was like, I am going to die in this road rage incident here, all because I was trying to be snarky and be smart. I was like, this is the end of me. And so I remember like calling my husband and telling him what's going on. He's like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I think so. So I got over. I was like, I'm not playing this game with this guy. So I remember I got over into the next lane. He got over into the next lane too and was like riding my bumper. And my husband was like, is he still behind you? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, he's still behind me. He's like, is there somewhere that you can pull over? I was like, no, not right now. I said, because I'm in the left lane right now and there's cars like going by on the right lane. I was like, there's no way that I can pull over. If I make a left turn, it's going to be very obvious as to like what I'm doing. And so then the guy like zoomed back. I think he ended up getting over again, but he was still driving like super slow. So I remember like getting a picture of his license plate and sending it to my husband. And then finally, when I was able to get back over, I got over again and I did like make a right turn into a shopping center parking lot and just kind of like circled around the parking lot a little bit. But for the rest of that day, I was terrified every time I saw a white pickup truck. And then I remember also when I got to work, I had like a sticker on my windshield. And I remember scraping the sticker off my windshield because I was like, this is way too identifying on my car. I was like, my car, the color of my car that has like, okay, a lot of people have this color, this make, this model, this color, that's fine. But not everybody has the sticker on the back. So I got to work and I scraped the sticker off the back of my car. But yeah, I was paranoid for several days after that because in my mind, I said, well, this is somebody that's on my route to work because we are coming from the same way. So this person's obviously on my route. I'm probably passing them every single day. So yeah.
Right. That is scary. Yeah. My boyfriend had a similar situation and I wasn't with him and I was like, yeah, it's like, I also think like, what are these people on that like drives them to be like, I'm going to follow you. Like, I'm so angry that I'm going to follow you for like multiple roads. It's like,
yes. I'm like, you went right. I'm like, you went out of your way. I mean, granted, he could have took another way, but you were going straight. I wasn't making a left turn, so you went out of your way to follow behind me for like 3 or 4 miles, and even depending on where he was going, he made his way a lot longer because he was going to have to loop back around. So yeah, that was a very scary
I'm sorry
moment.
to deal with that. That is not fun.
Yeah. So now I'm very nice to people in traffic. If somebody's like,
I'm
yeah,
not gonna flip you off.
I'm not. Nope. If someone is riding my tail, as soon as I am able to get over, I will politely get myself over and let them go. And
Right.
nope, not. Lesson learned.
Yeah, I'm my boyfriend's the driver. I'm definitely a little bit of like an angry passenger sometimes. Like I will, and I'm like, you would think I'm the one driving by how I act, but sometimes it's like I don't even know. Like it's a whole situation. I have my permit, but I don't have my license. And I'm like, how do I still drive better than some of these people that have their licenses? I don't know. But yeah, I definitely get a little. Like sometimes it's like someone will get in the next lane and they won't turn their blinker on or like certain things, and I literally would just be like, "Oh, do we not know how to use our blinkers?" Like,
yeah, I've had to like.
I'm so glad they can't hear me because I'm talking my smack in the seat, or just like I'm like, you gotta keep the window up so they don't hear me. But
yeah, I've definitely had like a little internal like road rage in the car, and I have to remember like when my son's in the car because I think one time the light was green and nobody was going. And I was like, the light is green. Go, you idiot. And so then when we got to the next light, he was like, oh, these idiots won't go when the light's green. I was like, no, we don't say that.
Yeah.
He's like, but green means go. I was like, it does. You are absolutely correct in that. Green means go. Well, we're just going to sit here patiently and wait for them to go. Maybe something's wrong with their car and they couldn't go right now. I was like,
right. I don't have any kids, so I like I said,
they're sponges.
So I'm like, yeah. I've had to really, I'm like, you're around a kid, I'm like, oh, but it's so hard because sometimes you're just like, especially driving, it's like I totally get that, just being like, go, and then not, even be like, oh, you heard me say that? Oh,
yeah. I'm like, oops, they're like little sponges.
They parrot it back, and I'm like, oh.
It is like you're not listening to me any other time, but this time you happen to hear me. Thanks.
I've seen like those compilations. It's bad that I think they're funny, but of kids like swearing, like, and it's just, I'm like, I don't promote it, but it's also like I've never claimed to be one to not swear. Like I definitely have had a vocabulary that I'm like but that's kind of why I'm like, I'm gonna wait a while till I have kids because I got a little bit of a potty mouth. But
yeah, I still have a bit of a potty mouth at times. I'm really working on it. I've gotten better with bringing in and coming up with like substitute words for it. I try very, very hard to.
But at times it almost feels like natural. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, you're not thinking about it, and then you're like, oh,
whoops. Yeah, it'll slip out, and I'm like, oopsie, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm like, I totally get that. We're. If anyone said, "Oh, I've never sworn in front of my kid," I'd be like, "You're lying. You're literally lying."
Yeah. Yeah, my smart mouth got me in trouble with that too. I was at my son's soccer game, and this guy like told me to watch my mouth, and I was like, well, what did I say? And he swore that I said shit, and I was like, no, I didn't. And he was like, yes, you did. He was like, there are kids around here. And I'm looking, and it was just his kids. Like all the other kids were on the field, and it was his kids, and they were like teenagers. And I'm like, dude, seriously. If I did say it, which I honestly know that I did not say it, and the people that was with me, they're like, you didn't say that. So I don't know if someone else said it, he just thought it was me. But the people with me were like, you didn't say that. But I'm like, even if I did say that, there are only adults around here. And I mean, yeah, your kids are over here, but they're teenagers. Like they look to be about, one was probably like 13, and the other one looked to be about 16 or 17. Pretty sure that's not the worst that they've heard nor said, but okay.
Right. Yeah. Some people, I don't know. It's like, I feel like if I had kids and if I that was my thought, like, oh, I don't want my kids to swear or anything or be around, I'm just like, well, then don't take them out in public because I'm sorry. Freedom of
Right,
speech.
like,
And also, like, it's not, someone's not there to protect what they say in front of your kids. Like, they're not there to speak to your kids. So I don't.
right. Like, am I gonna go on a whole, cussing spree in front of kids?
Right.
Absolutely not, because one, that's just rude and disrespectful. I'm not gonna do that in front of anyone. But have we all let a cuss word slip out in front of a kid? I'm sure that we have. And like you said, you're in public, so I'm pretty sure this isn't the first time in a public place that they've heard this. Like, do you not
Right.
take them to professional games? Like any kind of, I was just like, oh, okay.
If
Okay,
it was
good.
me, like, say, like, obviously you said he didn't, but say you said it, like, if I was the person, I would either ignore it or I would be like, hey, I'm sure you didn't mean to say it, but like, if you don't mind, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't just kind of be snarky about it because I'm also like, if someone did say, like, it's not on purpose, not thinking I'm gonna swear in front of a bunch of kids, like,
Right.
happens.
Yeah, it's like, no, obviously I was at a kid soccer game, like, so
Right.
I'm gonna definitely make sure that I'm being appropriate. So that's what's like, yeah, I'm willing to bet money that I did not say that, sir. Like,
I never understand, like, why certain people, like, I don't know, like, I've had a couple of interactions because I'm still kind of like getting used to my job. I've been there for 6 months, same amount of time as podcast. And
okay,
like I've had a couple interactions where it was like not a good situation and the person was just like screaming at me. And like after that, like I thought like it doesn't matter how many things went wrong in my day. I would never treat someone like that.
mhm.
Never. Never. And it like always fathoms me because I'm like, what like drives these people to just literally freak out on others who have nothing to do with why you're angry? Like I don't, doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me.
I used to work in customer service, and they used to always tell us, like, they're not mad at you, they're mad at the company, and you're just the person who they happen to get on the phone. Well, don't take
Mm.
your anger out on me. Don't. And I worked in collections, so you're mad at me because you're behind on your bills. How is that my fault?
Right.
How is it my fault that you did not make your mortgage? I worked in collections for a mortgage company and for a car company. So how is it my fault that you didn't pay your mortgage or make your car payment? Why are you yelling and screaming at me right now? No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm trying to work on because, like I said, I want to have. That's one of my goals this year is to have my own business, and I'm trying to like work on handling conflict because I don't know when stuff happens like that, my anxiety goes through the roof. I feel like also there's some days where I wake up and I'm just annoyed, and I feel like if he caught me on that day, it would have been different. I probably would have been like, "Who are you yelling at?" But it was on a good day, which like I have been diagnosed with bipolar, so like I well technically mood swing disorder because yeah, but
So
that's
you did go to the doctor because earlier you said that you don't like to go to the doctor and that you self-diagnosed yourself. So you have gone to the doctor.
ADHD. Yeah, no, for so they said had to say mood swing disorder because you had to go to a therapist to be diagnosed with bipolar, which is
Okay.
like literally the same thing. And I have my family history of bipolar. My mom's bipolar, my brother's bipolar. They're diagnosed, like officially
Okay.
diagnosed. I couldn't really afford therapy, and I lived with my dad and my stepmom for a while, and they never took me to therapy. So
Okay.
that's why I'm not officially diagnosed with that. And with ADHD, like I just again since then, because this was years ago, and I used to take medication for anxiety and depression and then mood swing disorder. But I didn't have greatest results with that, and I'm not I don't nothing against medication. I simply just could not remember every day. And I would even set alarms and stuff, and I just like I would be busy during that time or something would happen, and like I just was like even when I was taking it consistently, I felt like it wasn't making it better for me, so I just was like I'd rather not. So I don't take any medication, but I'm kind of more of like, I'm going to work on trauma. And I've done a little bit of therapy since then for a little bit because my insurance covered it for like literally 8 sessions. And then that was it.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
people may need a little bit more than 8 sessions here.
Yeah. I'm like, working my trauma has helped for sure. Cause I've noticed too, like patterns is like certain things like the bipolar. To me, it kind of more just feels like triggers because of trauma. So like, in my experience, like why I would get upset at things is kind of certain things people would say, or like it kind of would flip my mood. Like with the person getting upset at me, it's like I was really happy, and then like I was like became really low, and like my anxiety was like really bad, and I kind of go through that every day. But
Gotcha.
I don't take medication. I should. My mom's like, you need to be on meds, and I'm like, Mom. She's like, listen, I take all these medications, it's helping, and I'm like, I know, it may not be for everybody, and I feel like I'm so good at where I'm at because I'm still working on myself and getting better. It's just I'm like, yeah, I probably should be on medication, and then also it's like with the therapy thing, now I have a different insurance and it doesn't cover, and so it's like I can't even get officially diagnosed with bipolar. So
yeah, I got
the
you.
whole thing. I wish mental health services were either free or a lot more affordable for people.
I definitely agree with that. And also that, they had availability for it. I remember when I was first trying to go to a therapist, first of all, it takes a lot of courage to be like, hey, this is what I need to do. And then when I was researching them, I finally found one that I felt like I would do well with. And I reached out to schedule an appointment. It was like, oh, yeah, we have a 6-month waiting list. I was like, yeah, I kind of need help now, not in 6 months. Like I would like to talk to someone now, not 6 months from now. So thanks, but no thanks. On to the next.
Right. The 8 sessions that it provided was definitely helpful. But again, like I feel like there's still so much deeper layers to work through that like it's more too of like just being able to talk to someone, and then also like them being able to be like, okay, here are some things that I think might be helpful. But again, for some reason they don't want to make that and or like going to hospital or anything make that affordable because like I don't know, they got to make their money, but I'm just like, why?
Yes, I get it. I understand. I understand.
But for anyone listening, don't go my route. If you think you need to be on medication and you have access to it, definitely do that. I'm just a bit stingy, and I'm like, medication's never been my thing. Like birth control, I'm on the Nexplanon because I was like, I can't take the pill. I would not remember to take it every day. And I did it for a little bit because I was going to switch because I've had issues with my birth control, like causing acne. And I did the pill for a little bit while being on the Nexplanon. It gave me really bad like hives on my legs, like really bad rashes. They itched so bad. I was like, that's my sign for me. I'm just going to stick with the Nexplanon and
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that one.
But the thing is, like, if I genuinely was like, I want to be on medication, like, if I kept trying different ones, I would find something that would work for me.
Yeah, it takes a while, like, to find something. And that's just like anything, to find something that, like, works with you because there's so many, of course, like, allergic reactions or just, like, you rejecting it or anything like that. So it does take a while. Sometimes you have to, like, go back to your doctor and be like, hey, I need a different one, or maybe I need this one, but a different dosage and all of that.
Right. So I know we're over the 1 hour mark. Was there anything else you wanted to let people know about before we wrap up?
No, I just thank you so much for having me on here. This was a fun conversation, like very natural, very just like kind of go with the flow. So I really enjoyed it, and thank you.
Of course, me too. I feel like always when I like send the list of what are things you want to talk about, sometimes I feel like some of the stuff doesn't get talked about just because the flow of the conversation just kind of goes other places. But like I always enjoy it, especially too. It's like us talk about true crime and stuff. It's like I love watching that. I watch Bailey Sarian all the time, and I definitely love listening to true crime podcasts. And it's like very cool to kind of yes, talk about entrepreneur stuff, but also talk about stuff that maybe people don't really talk about. Some people may not know that you're interested in true crime, or you know what I mean. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it definitely was cool. I definitely enjoyed the conversation. I just enjoyed the flow of it. So thank you. Of
course. Well, thank you for coming on, Angel. And I know we're a bit over the mark, so we just want to thank you guys for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit more about Angel. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. I don't have any other episodes this week. I've had a couple people have some stuff going on, but we should be set for Monday. So I will see you guys then. Thank you so much for coming on, Angel, and I hope you have a good night.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.